Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've been waiting for. A podcast for podcasters. This is Creating the Greatest Show, and I'm your host, Casey Cheshire. Join me as we interview podcast hosts and investigate the ingredients of a successful interview podcast. We'll talk mistakes, earned skills, powerful questions, and more. This show is sponsored by Ringmaster, completely done for you B2B podcast production.
Welcome, everyone, to a bit of a special episode of Creating the Greatest Show. Some of the astute members of the audience may have noticed that I am not Casey Cheshire, and you are correct. I'm Sam Guertin. I'm a podcast producer. I'm actually the producer of Creating the Greatest Show, and I'm also a marketer at Ringmaster. I wanted to get a quick episode about a really important development in the podcasting world, both for the hosting and the production and repurposing content and things like that. So, bit of a special episode and a very special guest on the show today. She is, I would say, like the most plugged in person to the podcasting community that I know of, like on planet Earth. Whether it's on LinkedIn, if it's in different groups on, Slack or Discord or anything, super plugged in, awesome person. She's actually making her return to Creating the Greatest Show, and we will link her episode in the show notes. She is the founder and head curator of the Earbuds Podcast Collective. She is a board member of the Podcast Academy, and she is newly the community marketing manager at Descript. Arielle Nissenblatt, it is such an honor to welcome you to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm super, now that I know that I am in your head, at least, the podcast universe connector. So that's great. I love that. Just a big fan of the medium,
Yeah. You're newly the community marketing manager at Descript. You're not new to being a community manager, and you're pretty much at the heart of this big development in the podcasting world, which is Descript buying Squadcast. So, Arielle, what in your mind is the biggest benefit to podcasters of Descript buying Squadcast?
Sure. So for folks who don't know, Squadcast is a remote recording platform that helps creators all over the world record with anyone, anywhere, at any time remotely. And you can record audio and video, and the audio quality is great. The video quality is great. And it's like Zoom, but optimized for really great audio and video quality. So creators who are taking their craft seriously will use a dedicated remote recorder like Squadcast, like Riverside, like Zencastr. I, of course, advocate for Squadcast. We are using it right now. So I've been working at Squadcast for the past 3 years. And as of a few months ago, technically, I've been working at Descript because Descript has been... we've been friends with Squadcast for a while. Squadcast has been friends with Descript for a while. But as of June, technically, Squadcast has been under Descript, and we just announced it earlier this week, and we're in August. So behind the scenes, I have been working for Descript, but publicly working for Squadcast, and it has been a fascinating experience to sort of figure out what people use for their editing and for their post-production needs. And I have been getting more familiar with Descript for my podcast. I host a few podcasts about the podcast industry and have been using Descript now only. So it's been awesome. And I am just super grateful to be chatting about it. And I really think it's going to be huge for podcasters. So to answer your question, I think it's that it's all right there for you. It is all in one. Of course, you still need to publish to a podcast hosting site, but I think that it's great to have a little bit of distribution there. I think if you want to record remotely with a guest, up to 10 people in a session, you can now do that in Squadcast by Descript. And then all of your files will be ready to transcribe and ready to go for editing and post-production, and anything you need, you can then make audiograms right there within Descript. So really, it is all right there for you. It is cheaper than it would be for you to have Descript and Squadcast separately. And now you just have to link your accounts and then you're done. So a lot of folks are saying, can I still use Zencastr? Can I still use Riverside? Can I still use Zoom? And the answer is yes, you can, but it's going to be more expensive.
Yeah, where it's
Or
tied in.
bundled.
Yeah, exactly. It's bundled. And it's funny, you kind of mentioned, and Casey always mentions, how meta this show can
Mm.
get when it's a podcast about like podcasting. Um, and you mentioned that we're recording in Squadcast, but then once the audience is hearing this, this will be edited in Descript.
Right. So now we're recording in Squadcast, which is now officially, as of 2 days ago, if you, our logo now says Squadcast by Descript. And then, it'll go right on into Descript for editing. Pretty cool.
Yeah. And there's some interesting changes, behind the scenes, which maybe we can get into. But I'm kind of curious because it's such a good video platform, and it's something that we've been urging all of our clients to use. We're big proponents of video podcasts and having that arm of the podcast. But I'm curious, like right now I'm recording in 1080p. That's HD for people who don't like numbers. But I'm just curious what you think the impact of having this amazing video and audio tool as well available within Descript, what impact that will have with podcasters being willing or being able to create video episodes and video clips from their podcast.
Bottom line is that it makes it much, much, much easier. When I started at Descript in July, one of my first assignments internally was to create a video introducing myself to everybody and then to post it on Slack. And it was supposed to all be done within Descript. And I am not a video editor. I am scared of video editing softwares. Part of that assignment was to download a bunch of other video editing softwares and test it out there before going into Descript and doing it all within Descript. And I had so much trouble using Camtasia, using Adobe, using the other things that exist. The second that I moved into Descript, I was like, oh, I see. It can be unbelievably easy. And I felt like I was a video editor. It made me want to go edit more video. So I have, historically, if you look at my Twitter, if you look at my LinkedIn, if you look at wherever I post thoughts about the future of the podcast industry, I do not think that you have to have video along with your audio for a podcast, but I think that it is smart to be experimenting, especially with social clips. And Descript makes it unbelievably easy. So right now, we're recording on Squadcast. You're going to have the audio, but you're also going to have the high quality video. And you could do whatever you want with that. And now it's going to be within Descript, and you can edit and you can put captions and you can make audiograms if you just want to do social posts. But if you wanted to use the video and upload this entire conversation onto YouTube, you could do that really easily, and you can have a whole bunch of different layouts, and editing is really just like editing a Word doc. It's amazing.
Yeah. As someone who spends a lot of time in Descript, it's been really cool to doing like video clips from our podcast and repurposing content that way. It's been really cool to have not only be able to make really cool layouts and designs and cool looking graphics and stuff, but being able to save that as a template so you can reuse it again and again on different clips that you take from different podcasts and things like that. That has been huge for us. And
I've noticed. I've seen the Ringmaster audiograms are all over. You just interviewed my colleague, Ashley Hamer. That was a great interview, and I loved seeing those audiograms pop up. You do a great job with them.
Thank you very much. We've got a great team behind the scenes. So I'm curious with like the social clips and things like that. I know that on your episode with Casey, you had mentioned that getting people from being a engaged social follower to being an actual listener of the podcast is difficult. Is that now? Do you think that's made easier when there is a video element to the social clips or anything like that?
I still think it's difficult to get people who are scrolling on social media to go and listen to your podcast, because often what you do when you clip something to post on social media is you choose the best thing. And if you don't get the cliffhanger right, or if you give away too much, or if you don't give away enough, they might just say, okay, that was enough for me. It adds to their overall idea of you as a creator, and maybe it makes them think positive thoughts of you so that when they do go to their podcast listening app and see that you have a new episode out, they might check it out. But moving somebody from viewing a clip on social to listening right then and there is probably still not in most people's user behavior or in their listener behavior. But that's okay. I mean, ultimately, the reason you're creating clips is to get people to understand who you are, to get people to trust you as a creator. And if they are already a podcast listener, maybe they've subscribed to your show, they will listen to your show, hopefully, if the episode is compelling enough. If you've nailed the episode title, if you've nailed the first 30 seconds of the show to keep their attention. But I do think it's important to use video to grab people's attention, just like it's important to use compelling writing to grab people's attention on social. Video is just another element to that. And what we're really seeing is that there are just so many platforms like YouTube Shorts, TikTok, and Instagram Reels that just spit your content out to people using an algorithm. And if you can hit that algorithm right, you might just be exposed to hundreds of thousands of people. And again, some of those people are going to convert, some are not. Some are going to just see it as a great way to get to know you and then eventually convert or not. So I think it's worth experimenting.
Definitely worth experimenting. I will say, anecdotally, I've noticed that YouTube Shorts have longer legs.
Interesting.
Like there's a little bit more long tail.
I wonder if they're keeping you in the cycle a little bit longer.
Yeah, and it's also showing up in like Google search results.
That's
and
great.
Things like that.
That's the dream.
Yeah, exactly. I think another underrated benefit of Squadcast, and maybe this is for people who have been doing podcasts and maybe they've been editing them in Descript, but they've been recording them on Zoom or recording them on something else. God forbid Google Meet. But an underrated benefit is the audio quality, because the audio quality itself is so much better than in a Zoom. I'm curious if you have any thoughts around that.
Yeah, I wish I could go into the technicalities of this, but I will just say anecdotally, personally, I've been using Squadcast to record since early 2020, way before I worked at Squadcast as an employee. And I was amazed because when I first started the podcast that I started using Squadcast for, which was called Counter Programming, a podcast about countertops, literally, it was meant to be a distraction from COVID-19. It was supposed to be counter programming to COVID-19. We focused on anything with the word count or counter in the title. So Countertops was, a series that we did. I co-hosted with my friend Shira, who did not have a microphone at the time. I think she had, she was literally just speaking into her computer, which nowadays I'd be like, nope, you got to get a microphone first. But we did a few episodes without a microphone, and honestly, it came out okay. It came out more than okay, and I would challenge folks to go listen to those first few episodes and be like, wow, it actually sounds like she has a microphone. So I don't know what the magic is. Zach and Rock, the co-founders of Squadcast, are just magical men, I guess, when it comes to technology. So I don't know what they put in there, but the audio quality is great no matter what. Of course, having a microphone is recommended.
Absolutely. And we'll link to the podcast down in the show notes. We'll also link probably to our recommended podcast mics.
What do you recommend? Is that
there.
the ATR 2100 that you've got over there?
This is the ATR 2100.
Very nice.
Yes.
Do you know what I have?
That looks like a Shure SM7B.
It's the MB7,
by the shape of the pop filter.
cheaper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But okay, yeah. That one's like $250 compared to
$350, I think, is or maybe even more.
Yeah, $350 or $400. And the audio, ATR 2100 is $70, $80, but there's a lot that goes into choosing the right mic, which we'll link to. We've got a ton of content around that. So I'm curious, Arielle, because there's people that have, used Squadcast that haven't used Descript, and people that use Descript and have not used Squadcast. So is there like one thing that Squadcast users need to know about Descript that haven't used Descript? and then vice versa? Is there one thing that people who've been editing on Descript need to know about Squadcast?
Yeah, if you are a Squadcaster and you've been editing in Audacity or Pro Tools or Hindenburg or Reaper, and you're now thinking it's bundled, let me try Descript. I think something important to think about is that it might take you some time to get used to editing as if you're editing in a Word doc, but you should know that if you look to the bottom of your screen, you can also edit as if you're in a waveform. So you can do both. It's not one or the other. I do both. If I need to really focus on my crossfading or fading something in or out or equalizing something or de-essing, I use the waveform. If I'm just working on cutting out ums, buts, and ahs or double takes of a sentence, then I use the word editing feature. So I think as you're getting used to things, just be aware that you're not stuck one way or the other. You can use both. And if you are a Descript customer who has never used Squadcast before, I think the most important thing is to be in a quiet recording environment. You know this because you've probably already recorded elsewhere. But if you're new to podcasting and you're now curious about how to create a podcast remotely because maybe you just weren't aware of remote recording beforehand because you've used Descript maybe for video editing, but not so much podcast editing, I think something important is to use wired headphones, not Bluetooth headphones. That is big. It just, you'll cut out any latency issues and it is just the way to go. So I think that's one thing for you to understand, and also to be clicked onto the screen is really important. So if you have two monitors and you're not clicked onto your Squadcast session, you're instead clicked onto the other monitor, your Squadcast session will say that it is not focused. It's not the focus tab. So best practice is to just be clicked onto your screen that you are recording with Squadcast. So those are just some things to be aware of. And then a bonus is that you can take a squad shot, and we should take a squad shot. You can basically press a button at the bottom of your screen, and you can take a picture of yourself in the recording session, and you can use that for social media purposes. So that's just a fun little thing that we like to do.
Absolutely. Let's take a squad shot. It's literally just this little camera icon in the bottom of the completely in browser Squadcast recording thing. You don't have to download anything, which is awesome.
And it'll just set you up to have assets that you can post on social and say, check it out, I just interviewed Arielle. And it also has your show up at the top left of the corner. So you've got some branding there too.
All right. You ready? 3, 2, 1.
We did it. Good job.
Woohoo! We were able to take a picture, folks. All right. I'm curious about what excites you the most about this. I keep wanting to say merger, but acquisition.
Yeah.
Coming
joining of forces
together
yes.
of these two companies.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
What excites me the most is that I have gotten better, faster, stronger with my personal podcast production editing workflow. I host a weekly podcast recommendation podcast that is a solo podcast. And for me, that, I don't necessarily need to have guests for that show. So I don't need to use the Squadcast section for my Descript workflow. But I've just been loving that now working for Descript means that I've sort of been forced to learn how to use this new editing software. So now I can record all within Descript rather than what I was doing before, which was recording within Audacity, then making my cuts within Audacity, then sending everything to my post-production engineer who makes it sound good. Now I can do it by myself. I can get 99% of the way there, and then I just have my post-production engineer master it. And he's great. He's a genius. Daniel Turek, shout out to you. So that's what I'm most excited about personally. But I also then do host a podcast called Trailer Park, the Podcast Trailer Podcast with my friend Tim Villegas. And we do record remotely for that. So we will move our entire workflow into Descript, Squadcast by Descript. Tim already uses Descript and he's a really skilled editor there. So it's just going to be so much easier for us. And then we can collaborate because Descript is collaborative. So he can make comments. I can say yes or no to those comments. I can make comments. He can say, Arielle, that's a bad idea. And I'll say, thank you, Tim.
I do love the collaborative nature of Descript because just the other day, one of my friends, coworkers, fellow producer behind the scenes here, was creating a template for one of their clients for their social post, and they wanted they couldn't quite get get it perfect the way they wanted. And I was able to just go into Descript, and we were both, in the project at the same time. And we were able to work together to kind of refine, the vision.
Hell yeah.
To really perfect that. Yeah, it's really cool.
I love a refined vision.
Yes, nothing better. So before we kind of close and wrap up, what do you see on the horizon for podcasters? What's coming next? Would you say kind of this could be like big picture thing? This could be kind of middle of the road. What do you see coming down the pipeline?
I think that creator tools wise, there are going to be a ton of companies popping up that are going to be utilizing AI, and that'll be for your workflow or for your social media posts. I think obviously take AI with a grain of salt, test out products, figure out what is actually helping you and what might be a distraction. So, it could be that you think ChatGPT can help you do X, Y, and Z, but it really is more work to set it up than it actually than the benefits actually are. So I think you will be seeing a lot of AI tools in the next year. I also think video is going to be big, maybe in a justified way. Like you should be testing video for social clips and for potentially reaching new audiences, but be very skeptical of the people that say that you must record video for your podcast. I think that if you want to have an audio only podcast, there are still people who want to consume your podcast audio only. And it is okay to either not record video at all, or to not utilize video at all, or to just use video for short social clips that point to the show. So that is what I see on the horizon. I think I'm weary of making predictions, but I do think that creator tools are, popping up all over the place, trying to streamline workflows, trying to make the experience better for folks. And sometimes there are too many out there. And if what works for you, then you might not need to reintroduce or introduce something new into the mix. Although Squadcast Descript, I think, that's the way to go. It's pretty much all you need.
100%. 100%. And I've definitely played around with, there's so many. It's just of AI tools that are new. It's like, upload this and you'll get a bunch of
transcripts.
Clips.
Yeah.
They'll
do everything. They're like, upload your
also,
transcript or upload your audio, and we'll create social posts for you. And the social posts are all like, we are so excited to announce X, Y, and Z. And it's like, you can't be so excited to announce every single social post. Why do they all start like that?
Every LinkedIn specific post from one tool started with, "Hey LinkedIn fam."
Ew.
Every time. Like, I'd have it regenerate
Who did that?
every single time. I don't know if I want to tank a company's stock price right now.
No, you don't need to tell me. Tell me offline.
Yeah. As we're wrapping up here, where can people find you? Where can they learn more about Descript, Squadcast? Squadcast by Descript. Where can people learn more about Arielle and about podcasting?
If you Google my name, which is Arielle Nissenblatt, you'll find everything. I have a website, ariellenissenblatt.com. I have Twitter still, which is Ari this and that. LinkedIn, I'm posting more and more because Twitter continues to not be my favorite place lately because of all the Elon X stuff going on. I also have a bunch of newsletters. I have a podcast recommendation newsletter, and I have a newsletter about the podcast industry, but you'll find all that by going to Google and typing in Arielle Nissenblatt. Squadcast, you can go to squadcast.fm. Eventually that will be descript.com. But for the next few months, they are going to be operating separately, just linked. So make sure to link your accounts. And if you have any questions about Descript, about Squadcast, you can go to help.descript.com. And if you are wondering, listeners, why we've been changing between Descript and Descript, the answer is because you can say both.
Breaking news. You can say both. That's awesome. I will also say Descript has a really active Discord server and like a really good,
it's great. 15,000 people
there. Yeah, it's great. Like, if you have a question about Descript, like, they've got a bunch of great content on their website, but then there's also that community there. So you can sign up for
and
that.
I'm moderating, so
on
see you there.
Descript. Oh, cool. All right. Well, Arielle, thank you so much again for coming on and just sharing with us what's going on in the podcast world and breaking down some of this this giant development. Thank you so much for that, and really appreciate this.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me to discuss the breaking news. I appreciate it.
Definitely. And if you're listening to this and you learned something or you laughed, make sure to share it with somebody. 3 people, 9,000 people. That's thought leadership. And that brings us to the end of another amazing episode of Creating the Greatest Show. Thank you very much for listening, and we will catch you next time.
And next time doesn't have to be next week. Life's too short, and we have way too much to talk about. Find show notes full of takeaways, lessons, and links at creatingthegreatestshow.com. For more information on launching your own podcast or working with us to produce your existing show, come on down to the big tent at ringmaster.com. Until then, friends, whatever you do, do it with all your might. Work at it, if necessary, early and late, in season and out of season, not leaving a stone unturned and never deferring for a single hour that which can be done just as well now. P.T. Barnum.